Hey YouTubers, and welcome back to Join the Technicians channel. And today we're going to be going into my universal sockets and universal adapters. I've done a more in-depth video, or a couple in-depth videos on the sets that I have. I have a new set that I'll be showing you guys from Matco that I needed to pick up just because it's very handy, and it is 12 point, and I'll get into the reasons why I picked up a 12 point set, impact rated. But I'll go into the pricing of all of the sets that I have, share them with you, my thoughts on them. If you want to see a more in-depth video on them or my thoughts on them, then I have specific videos on that. But this is going to be an overall look at all of them, the prices, where I use them at, and then the pros and cons to each one. If I forget any pros and cons, please drop it down in the comments for other viewers, or maybe your experience with impact or universal sockets or universal adapters. Which one do you prefer? One can be more expensive, obviously, and the other one very affordable, but there are pros and cons to each. But we're gonna get into that, and I really hope you guys enjoy. If you guys do, please make sure to hit that thumbs up, leave a comment down below if you guys have any thoughts or questions on these products. And as always, subscribe if you're not a subscriber. These are all my universal sockets. I also threw in some universal adapters just because we're gonna go over pros and cons of each one, and then just kind of show you what I use and then what I recently purchased. So first up, I want to talk about this chrome 1/4 inch set from Astro Pneumatic I've had for a few years. I don't use it a whole lot. I primarily use this for interior work. I love 1/4 inch stuff on interiors, whether that be panels or working up underneath the dash or anything like that. The 1/4 inch set really comes in handy. The great thing is it's very affordable. It's a great little set. You're not applying a lot of torque to these things, and it runs $30. So it comes in the nice foam, and you get 5, 5.5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Doesn't skip the size, and it does go all the way up to 15. So that is really nice. It is 6 point, and I'll have this link down in the description as well as everything else. The Matco one will be on the Matco website. I'll give you the serial number and everything off of that, or the part number. But this is great for interior use. I mean, it would be great for a lot of other things as well, but I use this for interior work. Gear wrench ones I have over here. This is the 3/8 drive set, and individually, these are going to run anywhere from $40 to $70 each, or if you buy them both together, it's gonna run around $90, so it's a lot better if you purchase them together. Plus, it's just nice to have both sets. It's not very often that I come around, work on a whole lot of SAE anymore. I primarily used to only work on SAE stuff. Now it's primarily metric. I use these primarily for intake manifolds, motor mounts, and transmissions. Mainly, you know, intake manifolds, things that I'm not gonna be using my 1/2 inch impact on, but sometimes working on old engines, you got the intakes with the bolts at, you know, a pretty good angle that you gotta get down by the runners and intake runners and stuff. This really helps out. Obviously, you can use a universal joint if you're trying to save money. We'll discuss that after I get done going through all the sets, but these are fantastic for those areas. These are also 6 point sockets. So you're going to get a 7-piece set for the SAE and a 10-piece set for the metric. The metric set goes from 10 to 19 millimeter, and the SAE set goes from 3/8 to 3/4. Then moving on to the new Matco impact rated 3/8 drive. These are Matco ADV. It's a 12-piece set, and it runs around $250, so obviously a little bit more expensive. You don't have the same joint as you would on chrome universal sockets. You do have more of a ball end on these that tuck inside the socket. They're extremely smooth. You don't get quite a bit of an angle as you do with this style, but it's extremely smooth. It doesn't bind up as much as the design on the chrome sockets. Other than that, I had a previous set. I still have it at work. It is a 6 point set. This one is a 12 point set, and I got it in 12 point just because I don't want to buy multiple sets of these. These can get very expensive, especially if you need shallow, mid-length, deep well. You can get these in all various depths on the socket portion, which can get very expensive. So I just got these in 12 points, so it'll be good for 12 point fasteners and 6 point fasteners. I'll use this for anything I can, and then if I ever need a deep well, I will just go to my universal adapter and use a deep well socket. It's just gonna save me money. These are great for exhaust bolts, motor mounts, flex plates, bell housings. I come across that a lot, especially with 12 points. You get that a lot on drive shafts. It's really nice to have a 12-point set, impact rated. So other than that, that's it as far as my actual universal sockets. Getting into universal adapters, so this is going to be your impact rated universal adapter. As you can see, it's a ball inside of there. This is a Matco one. I also have a gear wrench version. So this one is actually pretty nice. This is pinless. There's also a pin version. It has a wider base, kind of like this. Basically the same width as this. So the pinless style is slimmer and more compact. So the pros for universal adapters are going to be interchangeable with any socket depth. So you can use it with, you know, shallow sockets or deep well sockets if you need extra length and you don't want to purchase shallow universal sockets and deep well universal sockets. You can just go the same route I did, where I got the shallows, and then if I need deep wells, I can just throw a deep well on my universal socket or adapter and go that route. And the other great thing about the universal adapters are they're very available basically anywhere and through anybody, and they're affordable. You know, they come with basically any set that you buy in all drive sizes. Very easy to get your hands on. Cons being they become sloppy, and my fix to that is I wrap the adapter in electrical tape. I just wrap electrical tape. I know a lot of people already know that, but when they start to get floppy and you're trying to go in at a certain position and it starts to fall down and you can't, you know, electrical tape around the joint to stiffen it up and allow myself to get on whatever fastener I am. Or if it's at an angle, I can kind of tape it there at least to get on it. And then as it rotates, obviously it's going to want to flex. So I don't put a lot, just enough to hold it in that position. Thing that's kind of annoying about these is if you get one that starts to wear out the socket, you might get down into a funny position in a tight area and you go to pull your socket out and your socket comes off. That can be annoying. It's not as common, but it does happen. I've had it happen a few times, especially working inside K-members, going to do motor mounts and stuff. I lose my socket down on the K-member and then I got to fish it out. So you can either throw electrical tape around there if your detent ball is starting to give out, or maybe you got a worn out socket or something. The other only real con to them are if you're flat rate and you're trying to move at a decent speed. With these, you obviously have to grab both the socket and the adapter. So yes, a lot of people might think that's ridiculous, but some people do like to save time, and when you do things a certain way all the time, you can save a lot of time by just going to these types of sockets, just because then you grab the one you need. You don't have to worry about switching or anything like that, or grabbing both pieces or both tools. And then universal sockets. So the pros to these are they hold their position a little bit better. I haven't really had an issue with them just following a direction, you know. At least the impact ones, when you put it in a position, it does a really good job of holding that position. Now, you're going to eventually probably have the same issue with the chrome universal sockets, just because they're going to become worn out, just like a universal joint. It's going to just get a little bit sloppier in here and it's going to eventually sag. But once again, that fix being electrical tape. Shallow profile is really nice. So as you can see here, when you have, even with shallow sockets on there, you have a little bit shorter profile, so you can get into some more awkward positions like K-members, where these really come in handy. Whereas sometimes this, it puts you in a bind. So sometimes having that smaller profile is really helping get to those fasteners. Like I mentioned earlier, the great thing about the impact version is you have still decent angle, not as much as a chrome design, but you don't have that binding. So the impact ones are really good at operating really smoothly. I mean, obviously it's on an impact, so you don't want binding like some of these, you know, they don't rotate in a full circle smoothly, where these do. So that is a pro to the impact ones. The cons being the universal sockets are going to be more expensive, obviously, than just buying some universal adapters. And then if you don't go the route that I do, it is a con if you have to buy, you know, both shallow, maybe mid-length, and deep well sockets. That can get very expensive. And then depending on whether it is a pin style or pinless, then you may have a wider profile as far as the bottom portion, which may restrict you in using it in some situations. But that is really it. If I've missed any pros and cons to each one, please drop it down in the comments for the rest of the viewers. But other than that, talking about 12 points, because I decided to go 12 point on this, and here I'll show you, and these are made in Taiwan. 12 points are found a lot on flex plates, drive shafts, axle nuts, some head bolts, various areas. They are kind of phasing out, but they are still there. Unless you work on one specific brand vehicle or make of vehicle and they don't have any, then maybe you don't have to deal with 12 points. And if you plan on working on those cars for the rest of your life. But if you work on various different makes and models, you will come across 12 points. It's going to happen, so you're going to need some sort of 12-point sockets. But I come across them fairly often, and talking into 12-point, people don't like using 12 points on 6-point sockets. You know, they just like the fitment of a 6-point socket on a 6-point fastener. It's just stronger because it fits the fastener the best. You're usually going to find 12 points when it is an application where it's high torque, where high torque is required, but it's a small fastener. So with using a 12-point fastener and a 12-point socket, you actually do have more surface area on that fastener, so you can apply more torque to that smaller fastener. So that is the idea with the 12 points, to spread that force over more area of the fastener or more area of the socket. So not always best to use on high torque 6-point fasteners. If you're going to be or needing to apply a lot of torque to a 6-point fastener, 12 points aren't the best. But you can still go pretty high. I want to say, last time I looked it up, the recommended is like 200 foot-pounds or something like that. Anything more than that, I would just grab a 6-point socket. Like I said, some people love, some people hate 12-point sockets. If they don't have to use them, they're not going to, and that's understandable. But that doesn't mean you don't need 12-point or 12-point sockets. Other than that, if I forgot any pricings or anything like that, $30, $90, $250, made in Taiwan, not USA. And then if you're not trying to spend that sort of money, you could just go the universal route or universal adapter route and save a little bit of money. And hopefully I've covered all the pros and cons, and I really hope you guys enjoyed. Once again, if I forgot anything, drop it down in the comments, share with the other viewers, and I really hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, hit that thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. See you guys next time.